Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Sam and Cole podcast. Sam Kavaris and Cole Pepper, as we are be on a pretty regular basis, in fact, Cole, now as we get really into the meat of a lot of things with spring has already sprung, so to speak.
Yeah.
We're getting
the
here.
Azaleas are out.
We're getting close to the Final Four. The Masters is around the corner. Spring training is almost over. Baseball season is going to, start in earnest. Maryland and Kansas are playing. Can't think of anything else. Obviously, and free agency in the NFL has gone from its first to at least its second tier, and there may be a few straggling signings, but the Jaguars, I still give a B plus. Had given them a B. I think that the Kelvin Beachum signing is about as under the radar and quiet as a blockbuster signing, potential blockbuster signing could be.
Yeah.
Because here's a guy that was a bona fide starter for a very good football team, the Steelers, who ran the football.
Very good offense, by the way.
Right. Ran the football and also pass protected a guy back there that very similar, as we've talked many times, to Blake Bortles. And had he not torn his ACL, he would have been the. You think
he wouldn't be here?
Well, okay, I'll agree with that. But had he not been, he would have been, if not the premier offensive free agent available, certainly the premier offensive lineman free agent available. The Jaguars did their homework on him. Obviously, created some sort of relationship with him because he said that there was interest on both sides, that they didn't just pursue him. And so he signs. Now, what you get is a proven guy who's coming back from injury, ACL injury, offensive lineman, not the worst position to come back from to do that. The advancements in what they do in order to come back are pretty amazing. He certainly can wear a brace to play that position. And here's where you come in. He'll give Luke Joeckel a run for his money.
Praise me. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? Listen, I am, as you know, I have been anything but a cheerleader over the last several years for the Jaguars because they've been bad.
Yeah.
I almost want to give the Jaguars an A- in free agency as a result of this move.
Really? Wow.
I'm not going to.
Don't you agree that it is like the most under the radar signing
it has the potential.
There's not a single fan that's going to ask you about Kelvin Beachum, and he may be the linchpin to what the Jaguars need to take the next step.
Yeah, and let me tell you why I like this move so much. First of all, 2-year deal, right? Which means if he plays and beats out Joeckel and is good this year, you can always work on a longer-term deal without any pressure.
He's 26
years old.
Yeah.
I talked to some reporter friends of mine in Pittsburgh who cover the Steelers, and what I'm told about him, number one, smart guy, good head for the game. He'll be a good locker room interview. Good for us. Might have a very high opinion of himself, which can be
even better as a professional athlete.
Which can be seen as confidence, or and here's part of that comes from the fact that at one point in Pittsburgh, they talked about moving him inside to guard. He's built more like a guard in terms of his height. I think he's like 6'3". He's not built like Tony Baselli. He's not built like Luke Joeckel.
Who, by the way, Baselli's lost 55 pounds.
I saw that the other day.
Did you see that?
So he's not that long-limbed guy. And that's
by the
okay.
way, for those of you who don't follow pro football,
why are you listening to this podcast?
Well, I mean, if you're not a real aficionado, every guy who's a tweener between guard and tackle center wants to be a tackle because that's where the money is,
especially left tackle. Although right tackle has also come up quite a bit.
Right.
So he had faith in his ability, confidence, what have you. He thought he was going to get paid as a left tackle. Now he may get paid again as a left tackle. as if things go well. And here's the opportunity that this allows. The Jaguars still don't have one of their starters in the middle three. Whether they move Linder in or whatever, they don't really have that guy right now. If you were to roll out and do a roll call of everybody who has played center as in the NFL in the Jaguars locker room, Luke Bowanko would be standing by himself. Okay, right. That's the only guy who's played. Bowanko, by the way, has more of a tackle build than probably Beachum. Right. But if the that's the one. I guess I would say the two positions going into free agency that the Jaguars needed to shore up on the offensive line were guard/center, whoever's going to play that position. The other position where Linder isn't, and provide some pop on some competition at left tackle. I really was starting to be concerned that they had the blinders on with Luke Joeckel because it was Dave Caldwell's first draft pick and blah, 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 and all the talk. Oh, no, he's fine. Well, anybody who knows football can see that he's not fine. It's not that he's awful and terrible, unless you compare him to what you expect out of a number 2 overall pick of the draft. But right. I'm not doing that anymore. As I said last year about this time, I just want him to be acceptable as a left tackle. So either this is going to push Joeckel and he's going to be better and he's going to live up to the billing or closer to it, or he's not, and Beacham's going to be the guy. Worst case scenario, of course, is that Joeckel doesn't improve and Beacham isn't healthy, and now you're back at square one. But I think this has the potential to be the most important, if not the biggest, free agent signing the Jaguars have had in years.
Gus Bradley said that he expects Beacham to be ready by about the second week of training camp.
Right.
100% ready to go and to compete. So, hey, that's that's a positive. What they're going to do at either right guard or at center, I think, is anybody's guess. I know they like Tyler Shatley. I know they think Bowanko has potential, but you can't pencil anybody in. Linder's going to be in one of those positions, but you can't pencil anybody in.
And by the way, if I could tell you that Linder was going to play at a high level at either right guard or at center, where would you want him?
Probably at center.
I agree,
because that's where you got to make the calls. You got to be on the same page with the quarterback. If you don't get blown up, you play at a high level. That solidifies a lot of things right there in the center of the line.
Yeah, and there's something about a guy playing center for a long time, whether it's Dave Weidel or Brad Meester or whomever, you become the captain of that group, and you need that. And I think Linder can be that. I think both by his ability and by kind of his temperament, I think he can be.
Boy,
that.
Is he a tough guy too?
Right, and that's and
he is a tough guy.
This is the center. While the left tackle maybe is the the glory position, the center is that lead by example guy most of the time. And if he sets the tone more often than not for what goes on, unless you have a great player somewhere else on the line like Baselli, but the center almost by default is going to set that tone. So there are still some needs for the Jaguars in free agency.
I think they could use to sign some other kind of veteran pass rusher, just somebody who can come in and compete in one of those spots. If there's
outside linebacker,
if there's an outside linebacker out there, there's certainly a spot that they can compete right there. But it was interesting to listen to Gus Bradley. First time we've really heard him talk about any of the free agents. And, they have a party line. They talked about Mukamara as being long, and they like, that and his physical style. And they said, it's not been one injury. It's been a variety of different injuries. And if the Jaguars have leaned on somebody who is available as kind of their benchmark kind of player, he's certainly not that. But I give the guy credit, willing to sign a 1-year deal that the Jaguars offered. And he said, look, I'm going to do what I can to earn a long-term deal. And Caldwell said, hey, if the guy plays great, we'll be glad to talk to him about that. But a 1-year deal is what he gets right now. Chris Ivory was described as a violent runner by Gus Bradley, which I like that combination of him and TJ Yeldon. And he also said that Denard Robinson was going to be on this team as their quote unquote speed back. He'll probably return kicks, which may be a much more important job this year now that they've changed the rule. Because what you're going to see is teams try to kick the ball to the goal line.
Yeah, but that with the change that the ball comes out to the 25 instead of the 20 on a touchback. I'd like to see some metrics on how different a drive is going to be starting at the 20 or the 25. My gut tells me
dramatic.
See, my gut tells me it's not.
Really?
Yeah, and I may be wrong about that, but I think that until proven otherwise, I'd still just kick it through the end zone
to see what happens.
I mean, because you're starting at the 25, just it's not like you're bringing it out to the 50, right? And you need to make 2 plays in your field goal range or something. So
you would rather than, but I'm telling you, special teams coaches are going to work on kickers to kick the ball to the goal, right to the goal line.
Oh, sure, yes, and which is more difficult to do on a kickoff than it is on a punt if you're punting in that direction, largely because you're kicking it further. But the kick return position was almost a non-factor in the NFL by and large last year.
Right, absolutely.
Just because of that. I'm not sure that I really like the rule change, quite honestly. I think one of the things I thought was interesting with that is that the league has been so much about protecting players from unnecessary risk and the whole CTE and concussion issues. Now you're going to one of 2 things is going to happen. Either one, teams are still going to kick it in the end zone, not worry about it, or 2, you're going to see more returns, and nothing this side of punt returns has the opportunity to create a concussion more often than a kick return. Right. Because you got 11 guys running at each other at full speed.
Fast, right?
Yeah, not just from short yardage.
With bad intention. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not sure that's necessarily consistent with at least Roger Goodell's approach, which has been to try to eliminate some of the, some of the contact and some of the concussion issues. The other thing that Goodell said at the meetings today was he wants to get into China.
Right. Don't we all? He's got a long way to go because the way China got into the NBA or vice versa was by having Yao Ming play here.
Yeah.
I don't know how many Chinese are prepared to move into the ranks of the NFL.
Arena football is getting into China as well. They're launching a league, arena league.
There. Well, any place that has a fishing village 20 years ago that now has, or 10 years ago, that now has 20 million people living there. If you're a businessman, it's part of your strategy to figure out how to tap into that particular culture. But
a lot of fish.
Real quick on the rules. They also eliminated the chop block completely, which I think is a very good rule. And I mean, it's so antiquated. But teams, particularly on the offensive line, teams like Denver, in fact, used the chop block very effectively, and Atlanta very effectively in the offensive line as part of their strategy. And now your second personal foul in a game gets you ejected, similar to a red card in international soccer.
First thing I thought of, it's like getting a second yellow card. I mean, it's
the coaches were very against this, and the example they used was, what if J.J. Watt gets a personal foul for inadvertently grabbing somebody's face mask in the first quarter? Then the way the league is, they said everybody's going to show every lackey out there trying to bait him into another personal foul to get him thrown out of the game. And obviously that was brought up, and Goodell and so did Rich McKay said, look, sportsmanship should be part of our game, and we're trying to instill that in our players. So, that's why they only proved that for 1 year to see how it works.
And I actually suspect that what will happen is the same thing that happens in soccer, which is that unless it's a very obvious, yellow card or personal foul, the borderline one is not going to be called personal fouls anymore.
It's going to right. That's exactly right. Now there are some things, and I use face mask as an example because that even the inadvertent one now, it used to be 2 fouls. Now there's 1, and it's 15 yards, and it's called a personal foul. So the inadvertent ones still count as a personal foul. You just wonder. I think what they've done is they've put the onus on the officials to really adjudicate what a personal foul is, because recently you see guys, unsportsmanlike or whatever, roughing the passer, or, something like that. I think it's going to be very parsed out now.
They're giving more discretion to the officials, which is the opposite direction that they had been going in. In recent memory, by the way. Am I remembering right, Sam? Once upon a time, wasn't a holding call a 15-yard penalty?
Yeah, and then it was also a spot foul at one point, and then they reduced it to 10. So, yeah, it was holding at one point was 15 yards.
It's interesting how the game kind of continues to develop.
Yeah, because they wanted more offense, obviously.
Right.
So, and internationally, you mentioned China. The NFL is going to play a game in Germany in 2017. They're going to play a game in Mexico City this coming year. They want to play a game in Brazil. And Shad Khan kind of chuckled at the meeting this week. He said, "Boy, when we signed up 3 years ago, everybody thought it was something crazy and outlandish, and here we are, 3 years later, and there's a line of guys trying to play these games." Even a team, by the way, like the Steelers is considering giving up a home game to play a game in Mexico.
So was the Steelers game they played in Ireland a home game or a road game? I can't recall. That was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That was mostly because Rooney was ambassador to Ireland. Right. But that'll be interesting to see. Which of those markets has the best chance, if any, of having a permanent NFL presence?
Well, the only way Germany gets a team is if they create a whole division over there that plays pretty much among themselves and then travels 2 or 3 times a year. Mexico City is a Cowboys market, and so if they got their own team, and when I was in London this year, I thought it was fascinating talking to a bunch of Londoners, a bunch of Brits. They really don't want their own team because they know if their team goes 4-12, people won't go. That the novelty of it and the fact that there's 3 games there, which, by the way, maybe not this year, but I think the Jaguars are primed to be one of the teams that plays their home game in London and then maybe is the visitor in Germany the next week, or is the visitor the following week at Tottenham. They play the home game at Wembley and then they go play at Tottenham.
I don't think Con wants to play at Tottenham, does he?
As a visitor, it's okay.
All right. I didn't know how much of that was financially driven and how much of that was I own Fulham. I don't want to play at Tottenham.
Well, at this point, he's got a long time before Fulham gets a chance to play Tottenham.
That is true. They are as we record this, they are 1 point from the drop zone in the championship.
Relegated again.
Yeah.
Right. So, he's using Fulham as a entertainment venue for his European clients. And that's why he is rebuilding the Riverside stand there, made a deal with the City of London that it can be cantilevered 30 feet over the Thames, and it's going to be beautiful. And, who they play, sure, they'd love to play Man United and all those other, Premier League teams, but at this point, it's not going to happen.
Well, perhaps Bristol Rovers can find some spot on their on their schedule. I did want to let everybody know. We had teased this, I think, in the last one, but it's now happened and it's gone live. We've just launched here in the last 24 hours with About.com, and I'm writing their Jaguars stuff. So jump on JacksonvilleJaguars.about.com and see some of the stuff I'm writing. It won't necessarily be specifically like breaking news stuff. It's going to be more perspective stuff and more, some look ahead and some looking back in history. I had a lot of fun writing a piece that's up there. If you're kind of a drafting and like this sort of thing, looking back at the good, the bad, the unusual from the 5th pick in the NFL draft, and there's some really interesting stories with guys who have gone 5th in the NFL draft. Jaguars fans know one of them very well, Justin Blackmon. But there are some other ones that are intriguing, including the guy who drove the Bronco for O.J. Simpson. Al Cowlings was
the number
of the
5. How about that?
Yeah.
And it is interesting that this week at the owners' meeting in Boca, Dave Caldwell said everything's on the table. Now, he's been pretty honest in the past. Look, we're not moving up. We're not moving back. If something comes up, we'll move back. But pretty much he said, look, we're staying right there. But he said everything's on the table. Opportunity to move back, opportunity to move up, and staying right there. I think that they've got their eye on, one of 3 defensive players, either Miles Jack, Joey Bosa, or Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah. I think Ramsey's going to be gone. Bosa to me is not an edge rusher in the Jaguar scheme. He's more of a left defensive end type player.
Right.
I think they're going to wind up with Miles Jack unless they trade back.
And which is also fine. But the key is that as long as the Rams come up and get a quarterback somewhere early, that means one of those guys is going to be there at 5,
and maybe 2. If it's two quarterbacks and Laremy Tunsil, right?
Yeah, and if Tunsil goes number 1, as a lot of people are expecting, although the Titans are desperately trying to move that pick, and other teams say that right now they want too much, but who's to say?
Well, right now, deadline's a long way off. By the way, if Laremy Tunsil was there for the Jaguars to take at 5.
Is he that good?
That's the question. Is he? I mean, if so, that would really tell you everything you need to know about what they actually feel about Luke Joeckel, because
you'd be can Luke Joeckel play right guard? Can he go in there? I mean, hard to say. But baseball season's coming around. It's so much fun to be able to turn the TV on and watch baseball all day long.
And keep an eye on the world champion Kansas City Royals.
That's right. They did win it last year.
They did. Yeah,
huh.
They did.
Interesting.
The other sporting event going on, though, Sam, right now, we need to touch on is March Madness.
Yes, it is.
Thursday night, about around 10 o'clock or so, Kansas and Maryland will be going at it.
Right. Which, by the way,
alma mater, my alma mater.
That's right. True alma maters. We both actually graduated from those schools.
Always nice
didn't just attend them.
Well, I did some hardcore attending, believe me.
And Kansas, I think, is a favorite to get to the championship game. Put it that way. They look like the more complete team. And the thing that I tweeted out about Maryland is exactly. We are so damn talented. A, if Mark Turgeon would get out of the way, we'd probably win. B, if we had half a brain. We don't even have to have a whole brain among 5 guys. Just a half a brain. We play so stupid sometimes that it amazes me that we find our way to the arena. I mean, we're up by 4 with about 8 seconds to play, and a guy takes a 3, and we foul him.
Here's the thing about Maryland, doing just kind of watching them in the tournament, and Turgeon's a Kansas alum, and so I've kind of followed him. Cliff Warren is an assistant on that team, the JU coach, a former JU coach. So I followed them a bit, and they're a big team. They've got some size, but they don't rebound for a team as big as they are.
It's because we got 2 Euros. That's why.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, we got two Euros on our squad. So they want to get out on the perimeter and shoot the 3.
Who can blame
them? That's where the money is, right?
So I hope it's a good game, and I think it will be. I think it'll be. I think Melo Trimble might be the best player on the court when he's out there, the point guard for Maryland. But
here's Kansas, North Carolina in the championship game. I don't think that's too hard to. I don't think that's too hard, right?
No, I think that'd be a great one. Be a rematch of the 2008 national semifinal game, Sam, that you watched with half an eye because it happened on my wedding night.
That's right. We sure did. That's right. I'll leave you with one stat that I found interesting, and I know everybody's trying to get a perfect bracket and so forth. So 13 million brackets were submitted to ESPN alone. 13 million.
Mm-hmm.
When Michigan State lost, 6 remained.
Unblemished. Which didn't mean that 6 people picked Michigan State to lose in the first round. Just meant that 6 picked that and all the other ones, right?
And all the other ones. But think about that. 6 of 13 million only. There were only 6 people who picked Michigan State.
Yeah, I had them in the Final Four, so that is
So
although I had 6 of my 8 Elite 8 teams remain. So
excellent. Very good.
what that matters. But hearing about somebody else's bracket is like hearing about their fantasy football team. Nobody cares but you, dude. Nobody cares but you.
That's right. All right. Hey, we got exciting news coming up next week. We'll announce about the Sam and Cole podcast. As always, we want to thank our friends at Champion Cycling, the 3 locations, Arlington, the Beach, and Mandarin. Boy, the weather's turning great. You need your bike tuned up or you're looking for a new bike, stop by and see Phil in Mandarin or Brian at the Beach or Jim in Arlington for all your cycling and cycling service needs as well. I'm reading George Hincapie's book, by the way, and it's really good. In the first chapter, he addresses the doping thing right away. So when I'm done, we'll talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
And by the way, one last point here. Tickets are now on sale for the Jacksonville Backyard Barbecue Championships.
Yes.
April 23rd at Tailgaters Parking. If you buy your tickets before April 8th, you get free parking at the event.
What an incentive.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. All right. You can follow Sam on Twitter at Sam Kavaris. Follow me on Twitter at Cole Pepper. And check out JacksonvilleJaguars.about.com and let me know what you think. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sam, thank you.
See you, Cole.
All right. That is the Sam and Cole podcast. We'll talk to you next time.